Incognito.
All
Speaking
right,
now.
everybody, welcome to our show today. You see my partner in crime over there, Mr. Michael Williams. How you doing today, Mike?
I'm doing, brother. I'm doing. Let's get this bitch on the road.
Let's get it started. I'll let you introduce our famous guest today.
Yes. And we've had this gentleman on before, and he was very generous to come back on. And of course, if you don't know him, then obviously you don't follow Twitter, or you're oblivious to probably really. But anyways, the man, no other known as Skip Martin, here's from Roma Craft. How's it going, Skip?
Going good, man.
Well, we're happy to have you back on the show. We got lots to talk about. You got all kinds of exciting and new shit going on. So let's get right into it. Let's tell everybody a little bit about Roma Craft for those who may not know, and then we'll get into a whole bunch of other stuff later. So take it away.
Sure. Yeah, so Roma Craft is a company that we established this year. The RO is my partner, Mike Rosales, and the MA is obviously me, Skip Martin. It really was kind of a point where the work that we'd been doing together really needed to be done under a single company. Mike and I had been working together from our separate companies, and the direction that we were going this year really, required that we form a single company. And so Roma Craft Tobac was established. It started right out of the gate with the Cro-Magnon brand, and the first thing that we produced for the brand is, or for the company, is the intemperance. So, it's just kind of a new beginning for both of us.
Yeah. And for those of you who don't know, and I'm going to speak out of context, but I think I'm right. Obviously, Roma is Mike Rosal, Skip Martin.
Yeah, he already said that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Yeah. And it's also,
I can't hear.
Oh.
It's also because I'm Italian. Mike is Mexican American, and so Roma, in the symbol for our company is kind of it touches a little bit on our family background.
Mm-hmm.
We're both grew up Catholic, and it's also kind of a little bit of my heritage. Like most of the things we do, there's a lot deeper meaning to us, and the symbology and the meaning of the name of the company. So
Right. I turned my volume up. I can't hear for crap.
Yeah, get that volume up there. You need to be able to hear us, buddy.
Sorry, Skip.
he muted me.
Well, I think it's unique. The one thing that I found, and Skip was very nice enough, and Mike very nice enough to send Mike and I some cigars, which we both are enjoying. We smoked one earlier pre-show, and we're also enjoying one now from the Roma Craft line. I think as starting off from as following you from the Cro-Magnon and everything, the heritage behind your cigars and where you come up with these names. And I notice you have a unique paraphrase on the back of this 5-pack that you sent us, and it's unique how you come up with these names and what the meaning behind the ideology of this. So can explain to everybody on the new Roma Craft what's really behind that.
About behind Roma or behind Intemperance?
Let's go with Intemperance.
So the last when was the last show we did together? It was probably a year ago, maybe.
It was definitely
last August.
Yeah, it was a year ago.
And in that show, I mean, if you go back and listen to it, we were talking about this being one of the projects that we were working on, Intemperance.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I wanted to do everything. Most of the things that I spend time thinking about or reading it has a lot to do with culture or history. One of the things that I really like about the cigar business is the long history and the culture of the guys who smoke cigars, and the culture of the people who make cigars, and kind of how it ties into our history as a country, and into the history of or the socioeconomic situation that exists in these other countries. Um, so one of the things that's always fascinated me is the Prohibition era, and I think a lot of the things that are going on right now are kind of to what happened back then. And the Prohibition was driven by a religious movement. It was a woman's movement. It had a lot to do with women's suffrage, and when women got the right, the immigrant husbands who were spending all their factory money at the bar on Friday, they went to the polls and wanted to put an end to that. Um, and that movement, the temperance movement, really about a small group of people gathering, this sentiment among a part of society and turning it into a political power. And I think in a lot of ways that's what the anti-tobacco movement. Well, it's nothing new. I mean, the
Right.
temperance movement originally included, it's most famously alcohol because they were successful in passing the 18th Amendment. But it was also about tobacco. If you go back and read the early temperance documents, and I came across a while ago, I came across this political print called the Tree of Intemperance, and I really wanted to do something around this idea that we're kind of in the middle of this modern temperance movement, and this is just was kind of our statement, to our commentary on that.
Hmm.
I mean, the reason why we put the thought into the brand is because it is a handcrafted product, and it takes a lot of time to blend and produce, and you spend a lot of time talking about it. So I just want it to have meaning. I mean, it's not meant to be. Nothing we do is meant to be gimmicky.
Hmm.
I want it to be interesting, but I don't want it to be gimmicky, if that makes any sense, right? So I want it to be attractive on the shelf. I want it to be something that people can talk about, that stimulates conversation, that people can read more about if they're interested in it. But I don't want it to be something that is gimmicky.
Right.
So
Hmm.
there's a fine line there, I think.
It is,
Yep.
yeah.
So you basically want to get your point across, but you don't want to be comical.
A lot of people use the word brand, but they don't. Some people who use the word don't understand what brand is. Brand is not really a trademark. Brand is like an entire identity around the product, around the people who consume the product. It's about what you represent in terms of service and quality, and brand isn't just the mark.
Hmm.
And brand management, brand identity is about a lot more than just a trademark or the name of a product. And so I mean, really, it's really about branding in the truest sense of the word. That it's about the statement we want to make, the identity we want the product to have, the characteristics that we want the product to have. So
Now, for everybody, with what Skip had said, if you go to his, I did a cheat sheet. Look at that. If you go to havaccigarshop.com and go to the Intemperance cigars, he has a little write-up for each of them down below, and that could be your jumping off point that you can go and research more if you want. It's a nice write-up.
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, you can Google Tree of Intemperance, you can Google Tree of Temperance, you can Google Wikipedia for Prohibition and for the temperance movement. I mean, there's a lot of good information there. I mean, I would guess a lot of us know it, but you know, Prohibition was not just about banning alcohol. It's just like the war on drugs or the ongoing war on tobacco. It's about political power,
Hmm.
right? Uh, maybe some of the city council members or state assembly people or the representatives that are pushing an anti-tobacco kind of position are doing it because a loved one died from tobacco abuse or
Yep.
I would guess none of of them were cigar smokers.
Yeah.
I would assume that, that they were, either, smokeless tobacco or
Cigarettes.
cigarette consumers.
Right.
But the rest, the majority, I would think, of the people who push this are really just doing it because there's money in it, right?
Yeah.
There's support in it, and there's money in it. The American Cancer Society, all these other big groups that are pushing. It's all about special interests, and this guy from Illinois, Dick Durbin. Most of the politicians, I agree with some of what they say, and I disagree with a lot of what they say.
Mm-hmm.
But this guy, the reason why he wants to raise cigar taxes $1 isn't because it's going to raise a significant amount of revenue, right? There is this huge political issue going on around the war on drugs going into this kind of blunt wrap, Philly blunt, Swisher stuff. But really it's because it's just an easy way to get headlines all around the country,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
And if you're a politician, being in the news is where you want to be. And it brings in campaign contributions. And then, having this fight to fight brings in contributions to CRA. And the whole thing is just, it's a big machine. It's a machine that it's a business. It's an enterprise, just like what we do.
Yeah.
Peddling power and influence and the special interest. It's an industry.
Oh, it definitely is.
So, yeah.
Now, we had a question in the chat a while. Phoenix Smoke said, now, your logo for Roma Craft, is there any meaning to the actual logo itself, he's asking?
Yeah, well, it's, some people, I don't know. We don't really talk a lot about what it means. If you come up and ask me and you know, then I'll tell you. But in the simplest take on it, it's a T and an X because we're a Texas cigar company. That's the easiest way to say it.
There you go, Phoenix Smoke.
Well, Skip, let's talk a little bit about both of the two different. I believe they're two different blends, if I read correctly, that Mike's smoking and that I'm smoking. Why don't you tell everybody a little bit about it, what you can?
Yeah, so Mike is smoking the EC 18, which is the Ecuador, Connecticut, kind of represents the temperance movement, the 18th Amendment, where prohibition was established. It has a Ecuador, Connecticut wrapper and mostly Nicaraguan filler. And you're smoking the Brazil Arapiraca, the BA 21, which is the 21st Amendment that repealed prohibition. And that one is a Brazil Arapiraca wrapper with mostly Nicaraguan filler. And the two blends are completely different.
Right. That's what I read. I've seen some things where people thought they were the same blends, but just a different wrapper, because they're really, as you do it quite a bit, is you don't really go into telling everybody what's totally in your blends, and
well,
I think people got confused.
Yeah, we were pretty out there about what the Cro-Magnon is.
Yep.
I mean, it's Jalapa, Condega, Esteli, Pueblo Nuevo. It's got Cameron binder, and it's broadleaf Maduro. The Aquitaine is very similar to that blend. It has a Ecuador 8 priming Ecuador, Connecticut Habano, Ecuador Habano Ligero wrapper. And the thing about that cigar is that it takes us a year to get those tobaccos ready to make them, and we're very, very, very selective in the tobacco used for those cigars, and so and frankly, the tobacco we use is not available in huge quantities, and so I have no problem kind of talking about that. The intemperance, really, we started making it last year when we realized how long the timeline was to create, how limited we were going to be able to make the Cro-Magnon. And we specifically blended it with tobaccos that are very readily available. I mean, Arapiraca is not something that people use a lot, but it isn't something that's hard to find. Ecuador, Connecticut is like, is very readily available. I mean, we're still very selective in the tobacco. We're selective in what we choose, and it took us a long time to come up with the blends.
Hmm.
But we just decided we weren't going to say as much about what these blends are, which is kind of a double-edged sword, right? I mean, there's a lot of guys like me and you and the guys that listen to you who really want to know every element of what's in the in the cigar. But what I say is, I don't tell people my chili recipe. I don't tell people what's in my tomato sauce, and it's mostly tomatoes,
Yeah.
right? Or it's mostly chili powder and meat, right? But and I think that's part of what we want you to do is go into this cigar without a lot of preconceptions. I've had a lot of people say to me, I don't like Ecuador, Connecticut, right? So, they didn't want to buy the sampler because they didn't want the Ecuador, Connecticut. And we intentionally didn't sell the cigar outside of the sampler. You had to get every size, both wrappers, in order to buy it, because we wanted people to try it and to recognize that, not all Ecuador, Connecticut's like any other leaf. You can blend it to a flavor profile that is different than what a lot of Ecuador, Connecticut cigars are. When we first started, it was supposed to be Ecuador, Connecticut, and Habano. Ecuador, Habano. And when we went to buy the Habano, we found this Ligero that we ended up using for the Aquitaine because we loved it so much. I mean, I had this tendency to go for really thick, strong, dark wrapper leaf, and obviously that wasn't a good fit for this cigar because it would have taken us, 8 months to a year to ferment that, and we would have been back in the same situation. But when we started blending the Arapiraca with the blend we had settled on for the Ecuador, Connecticut, we settled on that blend it was like the second or third blend we tried, because I knew exactly what I wanted in it going in. We blended it, we tweaked the ratios, but never changed anything that was in it. Then when we put that Habano wrapper on that, it was great. When we went and put an Arapiraca wrapper on it, it didn't taste right. It wasn't. It had a bite. And Arapiraca is a very specific flavor profile that you have to blend to. So then we spent about 3-4 months blending the Arapiraca. So it ended up being a completely different blend than the EC. So it's part of the. It's part of. Really, it's part of why I do this. There's a lot of guys who own cigar brands, and they are. Some are a little involved in the blending, some are not involved in the blending at all, some are extremely involved, like Pete and those guys. But not very many of them, buy tobacco at the source, select the tobacco, watch it through fermentation, right. Own a factory, constantly blend in the factory. And that's really why I was interested in doing this. I didn't want to be a brand owner going to events and having my face on this, that, or the other. I really wanted to learn about tobacco. And so when I sit down with John Drew, who's a brilliant marketeer who does events as well as anyone, we don't talk about branding or artwork or packaging. We talk about tobacco. When I sit down and talk with the people I sit down and talk with in Nicaragua are people that I'm going to learn about tobacco from. The other piece of it is a natural thing that we do, and that's really honestly kind of more Mike's thing is, managing the retail accounts and that kind of stuff. But the thing that I'm in this for is to learn more about tobacco.
That's good. I mean, as you're learning more about tobacco, you can put more of your expertise into it and make even better cigars down the road than what you already have.
Yeah, I mean, I hope so. I mean, at least something that's, we have 3 rules when it comes to we've kind of come up with 3 rules when it comes to the cigars we make. First and foremost, it has to be something that I and Mike both will smoke on a regular basis. not just something that we like, but something that if it's in the humidor next to other stuff, we'll pick it up before anything else. Um, doesn't mean it's better
Right.
than anyone else's stuff. It just means it fits what we
Right.
like. And as a retailer, I sold a lot of things that I knew were good cigars, but were not cigars I would smoke on a regular basis, right? I mean, because there was demand for them, because, I learned that people have different taste profiles, that they enjoy, and I wanted to have cigars that were for everyone. But when you're making a cigar, that rule doesn't apply, right? I don't want to make cigars that other people will enjoy that I won't smoke on a regular
Right.
basis. So that's rule number one. Rule number two is it has to be something that is different in some way. We don't want to make a derivative product that's, oh, hey, this is a lot like the Illusion, or this is a lot like this, or this is a lot like that,
Right.
right? I mean, the we've come up with a couple of blends that when I smoked it, I'm like, man, if I didn't know better, this is a Hoya Nicaraguan Antonio, or this is a that or this or
Right.
that, right? And I'm not really interested in making someone else's cigar.
Hmm.
I want to. We want this. So the second rule is, it has to be something that's different. That if you buy it, you're not going, oh, this is just like everything
Right.
else. And third, it has to be something that we can make on a consistent and regular basis. So I'm also not interested in going to find that magical secret 100 pounds of tobacco and making 1,000 boxes, right? That's not what I'm interested in. Now it's true. Last year we ran out of Cro-Magnon. That's because when we bought the tobacco for Cro-Magnon, it was supposed to be 30,000, 35,000 cigars for the year, 50,000 cigars for the year. I didn't understand yields, so it's really more like 38, right? And it turned out we sold out of them in like 5 months. So there was really nothing I could do about that. I had no idea that it would blow up like that. That really was never what my intent of making that cigar was. So when we decided, hey, obviously we're going to make it again, we had to go get the same exact tobacco, and it just took a year and a half for it to be ready. So it's going. We started rolling in January, and when we bought it this time. So last time when I was buying broadleaf in first trip to Nicaragua in 2010 November, for Mike's first trip, we were buying that broadleaf from Nicoprosa 45, 50 pounds at a time, literally not even in a bulk. And then by the time I went down in February, we bought 100 pounds. We bought another 100 pounds, and then it was gone, right?
Wow.
This year, and when I went down 2 weeks ago, I bought almost 6,000 pounds more of tobacco. So it's on a completely different level, and our goal is to be able to consistently make cigars that are exactly the same on a regular basis. So that's our third rule: is we don't want to have these cigars we can't reproduce.
Right. Now I have on the first and third rule. I have something on the first rule is funny when you say that about with your shop, because we had Abe from Smoking on the show on Thursday night. He said the exact same thing. He doesn't like half of what's in his shop, but he carries it because there's people out there that do like it. You can't carry everything that you like. You have to carry everything that everybody likes. And the third rule that you were talking about just there, the only question I have about that is, isn't that really hard to do just because of the crops, just because of weather conditions and such that come into play with the tobacco? Or have you found it more easy with the tobaccos that you're using to be able to keep it consistent?
Well, I mean, I can go real geeky on you right here, right? And sound like I know a lot, but this is just really stuff I'm learning. It is hard to do, and it's impossible to guarantee,
Right.
but it's a good goal,
Right.
right? So if I were blending the Cro-Magnon today, and I went into Nicoprosa, and the tobacco that we ended up using they only had 200 pounds of it. I would have never used that tobacco to blend the cigar because I would have known that there's no way we could create a sustainable blend. That cat's out of the bag, right? So, we bought as much broadleaf as I could afford last year, and from last year's crop. So when we went down last August, there was a crop that had been purchased from March, and that crop was going to ferment until like November, December. It ended up fermenting until January-ish, February. Right. But to be the same as the tobacco we were using before, we knew it was started the same, right? It was from the same farms, same regions, same priming, same thickness, the same kind of vein structure, the same kind of what they call grueso, or the oils right. in the tobacco. We knew it was the same, but we knew it had a year to be what it needed to be. So we bought as much as we could afford. I mean, it's $25, $30. It's expensive. $25, $30 a pound, depending on what the size of the leaf and stuff that you're looking at. Well, so this trip we went down, I thought I was ahead of the game. We went in to buy. I went down to buy more tobacco, specifically more Habano, and I was having dinner with or lunch with Steve Saka, and Steve mentioned to me that the source where we were getting this tobacco, that they weren't going to buy a crop of Connecticut broadleaf this year. And I'm like, well, this is news to me. This is no good, because this would mean that next year I would be out of tobacco right. again. So we went over to the source of tobacco, and they said, yeah, that's correct. All the weather conditions in Connecticut, there was hail and freezing and other things, and so everything was garbage. In fact, they had a bunch of it that they had picked up from someone else, and they showed us the leaf, and it was total garbage. So I was like, man, I don't know what I'm going to do. Well, it just so happened that he had some tobacco left from what we had bought last August, but it was what's called XL leaf, which means that there's some defect, like a hole or a discoloration on half of the leaf, or a big chunk of the leaf. So it's a lot less expensive. It's it's closer to like $17, $18 a pound, but the yield is a lot lower. So instead of getting 14 pounds per thousand or whatever, you're getting like 19 pounds per thousand. So I mean, all that's to say, we got really lucky that we were able to buy another 2,000 pounds of this leaf to guarantee that it gets us through at least the next 16 months. But to your point, there's no guarantee after that 16 months that next year's crop is not going to be the same, right? So when we go back next April, May, we'll ask them again, how's Connecticut broadleaf right. doing? And in fact, next year we may actually even go up to the Connecticut River Valley and look to see if we can find some stuff. We may not be to that stage yet, but that's something I'd love to do with John, or when they go up there.
Yeah.
They buy so much. They buy whole crops, right? So I would love to go up with him, but Connecticut broadleaf Maduro is like, to me, one of the greatest leaves, but it's also the biggest pain in the ass. It's expensive. It has low yield. It's from the United States. It has, weather issues. It's a lot of people are using it. I mean, the Liga, I think, uses it, right? The Liga Bravada, and so there's a lot of demand for it. That's why you see a lot of people moving to using San Andreas Maduro, right. or Modafina, or other kind of darker, heavier leaves, because broadleaf is just not an economically smart thing to use. Right. Or Pete uses it kind of more on a limited basis, yes. right, on some of his stuff. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. We should be charging like $10-12 for the Cro-Magnon is basically what I'm saying.
Modafina seems to be being used a lot more lately.
Yeah, it really does.
You see it popping up everywhere.
Go ahead, Mike. Grab one of those questions from the chat.
Yeah, I'm going to actually skip. We'll switch it up a little bit. Phoenix Smoke wants to know, he says, you're very active on Twitter, which we all know. He said, Do you ever meet up with people that you talk to on Twitter that are in the Austin area?
Oh yeah, in Austin all the time. I mean, um, Daryl DeRamus was over, DA DeRamus was over at my house last night, and we always have a good time watching sports or boxing or whatever, smoking stuff. He brings me cigars, I give him cigars. He's one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. Cigar DR, Carlos is old school. He and I talk hip hop all the time, and we go eat fried chicken and all kinds of good food here. There's a bunch. Wing Fan 13, Hex 4D is a friend of mine who he lives further south, but he's kind of a foodie like me. So I mean, there's tons of guys, and you'll see if you watch, we interact a lot. Generally, when we go to a barbecue joint, generally a lot of us will get together. Um, but the more interesting, maybe the other half of that question is, do I ever interact with people on Twitter who are outside of Austin? And what's funny is, I'll travel. Like I went to the, I love the tweet ups. Like I would much rather go to the tweet ups than the IPCPR or, anything else because, I went out to the B&B tweet up in DC, and like there's 10 or 15 guys that immediately you just know them and you've never met them, right?
Yeah.
Jerry Cruz, I mean, he and I have known each other on Twitter for 3 years now, and I mean, when it's the first time I met him, it was like I knew him, and then he came to Austin, he stayed at our house, I just had an event in Kentucky with Jeff Moutet from Riverside. I was interacting with him when he worked in another shop, and kind of was with followed him along his journey of opening up a store. And when I went up to see him, stayed with him at his house, and I'd never met him. So, Twitter is a great tool for basically expanding the cigar lounge and eliminating the distance between. Now, some people like Mike, it's good that he's a distance away, through camera. He's look. I don't trust anybody who's into cats like Mike's into cats. That's all I'm gonna say.
Hey, my poor cat just died. You let my kitty alone.
I know.
Hey, rest in peace.
She.
I like to say he didn't die. He killed himself. He had enough.
That long-haired bastard. I'm done.
The things you were probably doing to your poor cat. He had enough.
Which, by the way, I'm going to go ahead and comment. The last time I was on the show, you had made a commitment to improve the quality of the production studio there, and I think we're about where we were.
Yeah.
And he's talking to you.
Yeah, he's.
I mean, all this money you got rolling in.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
At least change the color of the sheet every now and then.
I told him to put some white dots all over it and let people think. Speaking
Like
of money, we got
Rorschach.
that's a funny thing, Skip, that you say that. Everybody seems to think that you do these things, and boy, these guys must be doing great. Look, everything's going good, and it's so far from the truth. Let me tell you.
Oh, I know. Believe me, I know.
It's the farthest damn thing from the truth. Trust me. But
when you add up all the hours and you don't do. I mean, you guys probably. I don't know. You probably do pretty well, but like I know Jerry was talking about how just the cost to maintain the servers is almost what they put in. So.
Oh, you're not kidding. It's it's really crazy.
It's amazing what everything costs. All that little stuff, the blips, the Skypes, the live broadcast, everything. It's amazing.
It's nuts.
The porn subscriptions.
Shh.
Yeah, we must have those. Those are a must. Well, Skip, let me ask you this: did you feel any pressure after the success of the Cro-Magnon coming out with your what most people say, and I say it myself, your sophomore cigar? Did you feel a lot of pressure to achieve where you were at or above where you were at with the Cro-Magnon?
No, not at all. I mean, to be honest with you, the Cro-Magnon, I feel like it's successful because I felt like it was successful the day we made it, but it's been well received, and but we're really, really, really small. I mean, last year we sold 40,000 Cro-Magnons. So far we've only sold, I don't know, 20,000, 30,000 in temperance. But we're just now getting into the stores, right? Cro-Magnon was only in 5 retailers, just so we can kind of work out the bugs and how we're going to do that. The intemperance is only in 1 retailer so far. It really doesn't launch until June. Um, I'm proud of what we've been able to accomplish at the factory.
Yep.
I mean, a lot of what happened with our company, a lot of what we've accomplished is behind the curtain, right? So it's getting our factory built. It's getting all the tools and things we need in our factory to do what we have to do. It's hiring the right people. It's procuring the tobacco that we need for the next, year and a half, 2 years. It's figuring out all the logistics of getting, stuff through customs and all of that. It's, have the cigar online, is kind of just a mechanism for us to kind of raise money while we were doing that stuff, to kind of get the cigar out in the market and build the brand. And but to your question, John Drew, like every time I see him, John's one of my mentors in the business, and I call him all.
Uh-oh, Skip, did something come unplugged? Hold, hey, Skip, you have no volume. We can't hear you. Uh-oh. Well, folks, I can hear people, but all the video went away.
Yep, video's coming back up right now. I can see
video. Mike, you have to start yours up. There you go.
It's coming.
Wow, I don't know.
I don't know where you lost me. I started talking about John and then.
Yeah, you talked about JD and everything went friggin' berserko, just like it did when we had him on. It went nuts.
So, I mean, what I was saying was he's sometimes kind of hard to have a conversation with because he's so, frenetic, right? And every time we talk, he says something to me that he wanted to say to me, but he's already said to me before, but doesn't remember. Yeah. And one of the things that he always says is wait a second, what's this intemperance? Why are you coming out with another brand? You need to work the Cro-Magnon. And, for me, I wanted to have a line of cigars that gave, the Cro-Magnon's not for everybody.
Yeah.
There are some people, the Cro-Magnon's not strong enough, right? I wanted to, given what we talked about with tobacco availability and other things, I wanted to make sure that we had cigars that we could sell consistently all the time, that met those 3 rules. And I wanted to have a cigar that someone like me could smoke in the morning, in the afternoon, and at night. Mm-hmm. I wanted to have a cigar that was approachable for people who the Cro-Magnon is too strong for, and maybe even a cigar that is a little stronger and rough around the edges for people who think the Cro-Magnon is too not enough, right? So now we've got 4 cigars. We've got the broadleaf Cro-Magnon. We got the Aquitaine, which is the Ecuador Habano Ligero. We've got the 2 intemperance that we talked about. So I think now we've got a good, well-rounded line, and I'm as proud of the. I mean, seriously, I'm as proud of the Tobac and the Connecticut as I am of the broadleaf, because look, let's face it, it's harder to make a good mild and medium cigar than it is to make a really strong cigar.
Yep.
You could just blow someone's balls off, and flavor is at that point you're up off the charts, right?
Right.
So flavor, as long as it doesn't taste bad,
right?
There's a lot of really strong cigars out there that I don't think particularly taste good, but you hardly notice it.
Right.
But in the mild cigars, to have a cigar that has a lot of flavor without having a lot of strength is something that's a lot harder to do.
Yep.
It is.
So I'm not anxious about it. I'm proud of it, and in fact I hope everyone that likes the Cro-Magnon, I hope most of them appreciate the quality and flavor of the new line as much. Hopefully, it's something they would reach for earlier in the day. Yep. But I also hope even more so that there's people who tried the Cro-Magnon and it wasn't their thing that can come back and say, hey, well, this is a cigar for me. From, you know, I like these guys. I like what they're doing. I really want to support them, but the Cro-Magnon's not for me. Now they have something for me. So,
right.
you know, I wasn't nervous about it. I mean,
Cool. We have a
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I was saying to you in the pre-show that I'm a huge fan of the Cro-Magnon. I love the stick. I think it's a great stick, and I think the new cigar that you sent us, for me, I think is a perfect cigar to start my palate off with. You know, into building up to the more full body, kick-ass cigars that I like, full of flavor. I think it's a perfect complement to get a full body guy like myself going in the morning.
let me tell you what, man. If you smoke either one of them with coffee,
Yeah.
it's a perfect pairing.
It's exactly what I told Mike when we were doing
Yep.
a pre-show. I was drinking it with coffee. I normally don't smoke my cigars with anything usually. I'm just one of those guys. But I was telling him, I'm like, this cigar is perfect with my coffee. That's why I think it's a great cigar to get your palate going in the morning.
Or your morning
Mojito.
mojito.
Yeah, exactly. Whatever you're into in the morning. I need coffee, or I'm useless. We wouldn't be talking right now. But
Yeah.
well, go ahead, Mike. You got any questions?
Oh,
the
yeah.
chat room's booming up, Skip. So we're probably going to run a little bit longer if you don't mind.
Look, I can talk for. I will outlast Mike's bladder. I guarantee you that.
Well, you do have the backup mojito,
Yeah.
so we know we're good to go for a little bit.
Good, man.
now, this is a good question in the chat room. Stogie J Dog asks, Skip, in which way can the cigar consumer encourage their local tobacconist in carrying more boutique lines such as the Intemperance? Some of my least favorite retail shops are the ones who only carry the big name brands.
Look, I mean, I think it's a great question. You know, I was a retailer. I had a lot of opinions about retailing. There's a lot of people out there who are a lot better than I was at being a retailer. Rule number one of owning a business is understanding the needs that your customers have and meeting them in a way that they feel is differentiated from the competition, that adds value to them, whether that's in price or quality or service or all three. That's your job. So if a customer comes in and says, hey, I like this cigar, or I've heard about this cigar and I would like you to buy a couple boxes so I can try it, and the retailer is not responsive, then that retailer shouldn't be surprised when that customer goes somewhere else.
Right.
Yep.
Now, the nature of boutiques is that there's a lot of positive things that come with boutique. The name, you probably couldn't get three people even if we said what is a boutique, we probably wouldn't even agree on what that means. But one of the things about it is that it's small. And small sometimes means inconsistent. Small sometimes means unavailable. Small sometimes means, you know, expensive. So there's a lot of reasons why retailers may not want to step into that area. What I would say is that boutiques are generally, because of the limited supply, are more interested in getting into smaller good retailers than getting into kind of mass market online type channels.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a built-in natural advantage for retailers to carry good value, good price, consistent, available boutique cigars. So that's what we're trying to make. I mean, look, our factory, we can only make 4,000 cigars a week right now. We have the capacity to do 6,000 to 8,000, but our tobacco supply, our the people that work for us, the way we're running right now, we're only doing 4,000 cigars a week. It shifts from week to week, but we're only doing about 1,000 Cro-Magnons a week, about 1,000 Aquitaine, and about 1,000 of each of the Intemperance. So I can only make 35 boxes a month of intemperance.
Right.
So what that means is, right now I have probably somewhere around 50,000 intemperance rolled, and something around, I don't know, 70,000. No, that's not correct. 20,000 Cro-Magnon and Aquitaine each. So you have to build it up. So the Cro-Magnon takes between 5 and 6 months to get to from rolling to where I wanted to go to the market. I mean, last night I was smoking a Cro-Magnon that was a year and a half old, and it was just money, you know. But you can't have a cigar rolled for a year and a half.
Right.
I roll it with the best fermented tobacco I could find. It's ready to smoke the day you get it, but you know, obviously it matures and changes over time. So 6 months, 6 months is where I'm comfortable. So when we started rolling Cro-Magnon back in January, you know, we're rolling 1,000 a week. You know, maybe a little bit more. The broadleaf takes a little bit longer than the Habano. So, you know, there were some weeks where we were rolling 2,000 broadleaf and, you know, 1,000 Habano and no Ecuador. The Ecuador, Connecticut, really is ready after, because we're using really good tobacco, it's ready after, you know, 45, 60 days. The tobacco always tells you when it's ready.
Yep.
Depends on humidity and a whole bunch of other factors, how wet it was when you rolled it,
right.
you know. But in the Autoparaca it takes, you know, 3 months maybe-ish. So because I know I can make 16,000 cigars a month, I can only sell 16,000 cigars that were rolled 3, 4, 5 months ago to make sure that next month I can sell 16,000. So I could go to the show, Mike and I could go to the show in August and sell 150,000 cigars and open up 120 retailers. And then what would happen is in November, when they started calling us for their Christmas orders, we wouldn't have shit to sell.
Right.
Right. So, you know, that's not what we want to do. What we want to do is open up in, you know, 35, 40 different stores, maybe a little more, depending on, you know, the velocity at which stuff moves. And, you know, there's retailers that want 8 boxes of everything. There's one retailer that said they'll buy every Cro-Magnon we make, right? Obviously, that's not what we want to do. But, you know, so I say all that to say you can't open up in every retailer that wants you to carry your stuff either, right? I mean, Four Kicks is a good example of this, right? Four Kicks is a really great little boutique cigar, and they were very, very selective in who they opened up with because, I think they partnered with people that were really good for them. And I'm sure there's a lot of people calling them and said, "Hey, John, I supported you in all these CAO years and everything, and how come I can't carry your cigar?" And then there's retailers out there who've never heard of it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So
that happens
a
lot.
I think that's a good question, but you know what I'll tell you is if it was his name Philip that asked the question.
Cigar.
It was
Cigar J. I can't scroll up on my screen.
Yeah. So to the guy who asked the question, sorry I don't remember your name. If you want a cigar in your local retail shop, ask for it. If your retailer is never responsive, if sometimes they're not responsive, it may not be their fault. If they're never responsive, you might want to find a new retailer.
Yeah, it's good advice.
That's what I would do.
Yeah, it was
Never hurts to ask. That's the whole thing. You know, you can always ask your tobacconist to get something in, to try something, and they can get a hold of Skip, and if Skip says, "No, I don't have the cigars, I can't let you try it," you know, then it's nobody's fault.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, like if it was intemperance, for example, what I would do is I would order it from Have a Cigar, get a 5-pack or a sampler or something, smoke it. If you like it, there's always an opportunity to try it from us.
Yep.
If you like it, take 1 or 2 into your retailer and say, "Hey, here's some cigars I ordered. They're a boutique," and then have them talk to us at IPCPR. And you know, really, more than anything, what I'm looking for is I'm looking for that consumer to tell me, "Hey, there's this great little shop that carries boutiques. They're very engaged. You know, they have good prices and they have a great place to smoke. And I would love your cigar to be there."
Right.
Yeah.
There's been a few people who said, "Hey, we want your cigar carried in my local shop." And I say, "Well, tell me about your local shop." He's like, "Well, he's kind of a dick, and you know, his humidor isn't well kept." And like, well, yeah, I'm not.
Yeah.
We're not going to be in that store. sorry to tell you, you can keep ordering from us, right? But there are people like in San Antonio, even here in Austin, right? This is one of the things is the retailers will ask us, will you sell your cigar online? How can I compete with that? Well, we sell at MSRP, right? Price isn't the only thing, though. If you live in a state where you have 40 cents of tax, or like Jeff in Kentucky had 75 cents in tax, Jeff's customers will never come to have a cigar to buy those cigars because Jeff is a first-rate retailer. He's engaged with his customers. He keeps the cigars in good shape. He keeps them ordered and available. They don't give a shit about paying 75 cents extra for a cigar. They're not going to call me and order them. Same here in Austin, right? Daryl came over last night with a handful of cigars, and some of them were Cro-Magnons that he bought at the local retailer, right? And he's one of my best friends. So, if you are a retailer and you have a relationship with your customer, there's no reason they're going to buy from Hava. But Hava is there for people like in California and Washington and these other places where we probably won't be anytime soon.
Now, and that question came. It was Stogie J Dog that asked that.
Yeah. And sorry, I don't know where I came up with that.
Well, and then Phoenix Smoke asked twice in here. I missed it the first time. He wanted to know: are you going to open up a retail shop, or are you going to just stay online?
No, it's like you can see from our online store, the only cigar we sell is our cigars, right? I was a retailer. I enjoyed that. It's a lot of work. Support your local tobacconists because they work their ass off and they don't make a lot of money. And some of them, Abe's making money like crazy. I'd love to have Abe's money, but which, by the way, sorry to go JD on you, but I'm going to digress.
Yes.
I was really impressed with Abe. I've seen Abe's face all over the place, and I've met him a couple of times, at the show, and he's just a busy guy. I've never spent a lot of time with him. But, his, the things he was talking about the handwritten notes and how he differentiates the people who buy online. Mm-hmm. If he does that for the people online, I guarantee you the people that are face-to-face is even on another level than that. And, the reason why Abe has 11 stores, and the reason why Jeff Borshowitz has the stores he has, and the reason why these people are growing is because they're making the pie bigger. They're not gobbling up shares from other tobacconists. While they are probably taking some business from people that aren't doing what they should be doing for their customers,
right.
They're growing the business, right? They're taking a guy who smokes one cigar a week and he's smoking 4 cigars a week, and a guy who smokes Macanudos and get him to try other stuff, and that's what this business needs. And I was really impressed by Abe, and the reason why he does what he does is because he loves doing it. So if we had 1,000 retailers like Abe, like Jeff, like small guys like Jeff Moutet in Kentucky, this business would not be in danger. It would be growing. It would be like it was in the in the 1800s, at least the 90s, right? Where
90s.
It would be like, except it would be better because there's better cigars.
Right. Yep.
And this business is going to sink or swim on retailers, and sadly, not every retailer out there is good. They're just that's just the facts, right? So, it's good to see guys like Abe, and it's good to see you guys featuring him because that's an important part of the business. It's not about me and JD and Jose Blanco. It's about Abe, right? It's about the bloggers. It's about all of it. Yep. And I was really impressed by that. But let me go back to your question.
Okay, JD. All right, that's all right.
Yeah.
No, he's not showing us any booty.
No, that's true.
So
yeah.
He's not quite there yet. He's getting
there. So the answer is no. I don't want to be a retailer. If I had a friend of mine who wanted to be a retailer, like I said, I think the business needs a lot of retailers. If a friend of mine who wanted to invest some money and needed me to help them, I would be, that's something that I've talked to people about, just because I feel so strongly that we need that, and I know how rewarding it can be. What we do plan on doing, because we're working out of a little office in Austin, we do plan on opening a distribution center in Cedar Park, which will be a large storage area, a large processing area for both consumer packages from Hava and large packages from Roma to the retailers. And then half of it will be our office suite, which will have a big lounge, you know, to watch, the box matches and that kind of stuff. So there will be a place where our friends here in Austin can hang out and smoke with us, and but it'll be kind of more like a factory store than a retail spot.
Okay, cool.
Well, Skip, we had Jose on a couple weeks ago, and he mentioned he got the privilege to hang out with you. But I told him I would try to get down the down low on the whole situation with your driving ability.
Man, I'm just going to put it out there.
He said he won't ride with you again. That's all I know.
No, he didn't. He was just kidding. Emma trusts Jose with me. That's all you need to know. Look, man, the life we live is not like it was 200 years ago. The closest in my life that I come to death, like really, if there was a chart that had, right now sitting in my garage, very low risk of dying. Driving on the road in Managua to Esteli is probably the peak of that chart. We fly in usually at night because we're cheap asses and the tickets are less. But going from Managua to Esteli, you're literally, if a year from now I die in a car accident from Managua to Esteli, you can go back and go, he told us. So it is. You have to be careful. Now that said, I've driven in, because of my past job, I've traveled all over the world. I've driven in Panama City, Mexico City, India, which I turned the rental car in and got a driver. I've driven in Philippines. I've driven in the worst places in the world, so I'm not afraid to drive anywhere. The real danger of driving in Nicaragua is you have these trucks on the road. There's one Pan American Highway, and you have these trucks on the road that go 15 miles an hour. So you have to pass them. Well, the problem with passing is you're taking your life in your own hands to see if you can get over before the car hits you. Well, then, in this lane, you always have the constant threat of the person on the other lane passing into your lane. So it's definitely not safe. But, Jose would drive with me before he would drive with JD driving, I'll tell you that. You ask him that question.
We'll remember that one the next time he's on. Well, let me ask you another one, Skip. I got one for you. For someone who may be considering, or someone who is looking to possibly venture out and make his own cigar, what advice would you give that person?
Like look, man, from a logical business perspective, if I was your wife or your financial advisor, I would tell you don't do it.
Okay.
Right? It's expensive. It's risky. It's a business that has all kinds of environmental risk, and there's a huge learning curve, and there's a lot of pieces that have to fall in place just to not be completely fucked up. But then on the other hand, well, I'll tell you, as from my experiences, I quit my career to do this, right? So, let your freak flag fly, man. I mean, do whatever. Look, you only get to live once.
Yep. And
it's really, when you're young, people tell you that it's not, you don't get to live a long time, but
right.
it's really not that. And when you eat like I do, it's really not a long time. So, look, man, it's better to swing into pitch and miss than to
not get up to the plate,
strike out watching it go by you.
I agree.
Look, man, what I'll tell you is if number one, you got to have the knowledge. Number two, you got to have the money. If you are lacking either of those two, then it's not a good idea.
Right.
You're much better off. You're much better off going to work with somebody who does it, or or something like that. It's not for everybody, but I mean, it's for me, obviously. So
Yep.
I'm not going to try to dissuade anybody. One of the interesting things that's happened in the last 2 years is I've had a lot of people call me, like, hey, what advice do you have for me? I see how successful you guys have been in the first year or so, and I don't like judging other people. Look, your results speak for themselves. But what I'll tell you is that it's not for everybody. I spent a lot of years doing what I do to raise money and to learn. And I've been around and done around the cigar business and learned for 20 years now almost. So
right.
it's not as easy as just coming up with a cool brand and then having someone make your cigars and then just it's automatically going to be successful.
True. Cool. You got anything else, Mike?
No, there's one question in the chat I saw I asked, and that's about it. Phoenix Smoke again asked, what is, other than your own cigars, what would be your go-to boutique cigar that you would smoke?
Boutique cigar? I mean, you guys see what I smoke a little bit of everything all the time. I think my favorite cigar right now being made is the Dirty Rat. To me, that's one of the best cigars I've ever smoked. On a regular basis, I was a big fan of the Avo Heritage, and I still am. I think it's a great cigar at a great price. But, I've told them too many times that, this is me as a consumer. And I get told all the time I shouldn't say stuff like this because I make cigars now and the rules change. But look, man, if I spend my money to pay full price for a cigar, I'm going to give you my opinion on it.
Absolutely.
The Heritage is a great cigar, but if they can't figure out how to put the band on without fucking up the wrapper, I'm not ever going to buy one again. And that's just how that is.
Every time.
I've bought my last Avo until they fix that shit. And it's like they just ignore you.
Yeah, every time.
I'm always been a big fan of the Camacho 1118, one of my favorite cigars. Look, man, last night we were smoking Room 101, the One Shot, One Kill, and the San Andreas. Both of those were really good cigars. I love what Matt's doing.
Right.
Yeah.
Matt's. Just to see where Matt's come in the last 2 years has been really amazing. So, I don't know. I smoke a little bit of everything. I like. I could give you a long list of boutique things that I don't like, but that's not very positive.
Yeah. Let's end it on a good note. Let's not piss off too many people. Well, let me ask you this, Skip. We got a new thing that the chat room came up with. They seem to always like the answer to this question. Sometimes it gets answered, sometimes it doesn't. But you're on your deathbed. What's your last cigar?
Well, I don't like the premise of your question.
That's okay.
Because I don't really plan on being on a deathbed.
Okay. All right, you're driving, and Jose's you're not doing too well.
Okay.
What's the last cigar?
That's a much better. I'd rather burn out than fade away.
Yeah.
All right, we'll do it that way.
Well, first of all, let's have a moment of silence for Jose.
Yeah.
Poor Jose. We killed Jose on the last 3 shows, the poor guy.
Look, I think the question you're asking is, what's my favorite cigar ever?
Right.
Is that maybe?
Sure.
Right now, like I said, I think the best cigar that I smoke right now, which if I could, I'd buy 100,000 of them, would be the Dirty Rat, because I love that cigar, and it's strong, it's nuanced. It burns perfect, and I love the people who make it, and I love the whole branding, and I love everything about it.
Uh-huh.
The best cigar I ever, for me, like my Desert Island cigar or whatever, the cigar that I have the most fond memories of is probably it's definitely the CAO Black Robusto, and it was really a short Robusto that was made in the Tamboril factory in Costa Rica in the 90s. And, you know, I don't know. I've had a lot of these cigars like that where I thought they were brilliant, and I've gone back and smoked them now, and my palate's matured, and it's not the same. But I'll tell you, when I first smoked that cigar, it was such a game changer. Like, you know, we have the benefit now of having all these peppery, you know, Nicaraguan type flavors in tobacco, which we just didn't have then because nobody made them because the market didn't. That wasn't the market. And now, because that's the market, everybody seems to be kind of going for that. But you know, that original CAO Black Tamboril was I don't know, it was one of those cigars. It would have fit right in today. And it was one of the first ones that I ever smoked that I was like, look, this is a cigar made for me.
Right.
I probably have smoked, man, I wouldn't be surprised if I smoked 100 boxes of those. I mean, I love those cigars. But alas, CAO is no more. Alas, the Tamboril factory is no more.
Everything changes.
Everything does.
I'd be interested to know if John Huber had a box of those, or Tim Osinger or someone.
Well, he'll be on the show next month again. John will be back, so let's see if we can find out for you.
Yeah, I'd love to have some of those.
Cool. Well, Skip, anything we didn't go over, buddy? We're at the end of our show here. Anything you want to mention? We'll make sure we put a link in there again so everybody knows where they can get your product. And
no, man. You know, one of the things I guess maybe we didn't talk about was kind of how we're rolling out this year. So we had our first release of the Intemperance at Riverside in Kentucky, in close proximity to a lot of bourbon factories. So that was a bonus. Our plan is to start rolling that out to at least 25 or 30 more retailers in the next in June.
Cool.
So our boxes are made, our cigars are ready. We just have to get them rolled. I don't know if they'll have bands or not. That's a question everyone asks me. I haven't found one that I like, so we haven't put a band on there. Fortunately, you can't smoke the band, at least not intentionally. So,
well, you can't tap Wahe's one.
So those will start hitting retailers. So if you know, this isn't, all these aren't locked, but here's kind of some that we're looking forward to being in. The Humidor in San Antonio, Cigar in San Antonio, Jimmy Shop, which I love Jimmy and everything they're doing down there. The Rumbos are great. 2 shops here in Austin, 2 shops in Houston, 2 shops in Dallas, Fort Worth, 1 or 2 shops in Chicago, Chattanooga, which we'll talk more about in a second, Oklahoma City, Wichita, Kansas, Norfolk, Virginia, Bethesda, Maryland, and also in Alexandria, Virginia, and Pennsylvania. And I think that's all so far. So we'll be in those shops in June, and with Intemperance, and then the show is in August. At the show, we'll visit with those people and maybe look at opening up a few more accounts depending on a couple of factors. Then right after the show, we have the tweet up in Chattanooga, which is the Burns Tobacconist Tiki Bar,
yep.
DC, or the Chattanooga tweet up.
Yep.
So we have an event there to launch the Aquitaine and the Slobber Knocker, and so we'll be there for that event, and then after that event, all of those people that I just mentioned that had Intemperance will then get Cro-Magnon and Aquitaine every month after that.
Cool.
So yeah, I mean, we got a lot of. We've been pretty busy, but until then, the Intemperance are available at Have a Cigar online.
Right.
You can also, if you live near Jeff in Kentucky and Riverside, he has them as well. I'd rather you buy them from him than me. Jeff's awesome, so even if you have to call him, he'll mail them to you, I'm sure.
Yeah, he's in the chat. He's in the chat room.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, so that's the plan. So if and then obviously Hava will get the Cro-Magnon. If you don't live in one of those areas, we'll get the Cro-Magnon and Aquitaine after the Burns event.
Right.
We'll have that.
Yeah, we have
Awesome.
Wes on next week or 2 weeks from now on the show about
2
the
weeks from
Chattanooga tweet up. So we'll be talking to him all about that.
Who? Who you
Cigar
got?
Wes.
Wes.
Oh yeah, Big
Yep.
West.
Yeah, he's going to be on 2 week.
Cool, man.
So,
Yeah. So I'm pretty excited about that.
all right.
Cool.
Are you guys gonna be at the show?
No,
No.
we won't be at the show.
You got to go at least once, man.
I agree.
Yeah, one of these years.
You gotta,
We're doing our part, though. We're going to have them on. We're promoting all our peeps.
for sure, man. You guys are doing a great job.
We
Thank you, man.
appreciate it. All right, Skip. Well, listen, buddy, we're going to let you head out. We really appreciate everything. We appreciate the cigars as well, and we appreciate you taking time out, coming on, supporting us. It means a lot to us, and we wish you all the success, brother.
Thanks, brother.
Have a good one, man.
Anytime. All right, Skip. We'll talk to you soon,
See ya.
brother.
All right, man.
Thanks, guy.
Alrighty, I am here by myself again. That was a great show with Skip. Skip's a nice, open, down-to-earth kind of guy. Can learn a lot. I mean, and like he said, I mean, with the industry, it's always about learning. There's just more and more and more to learn. But I will touch base the next show on the 26th, I think it is. I have Mike back with me now. He can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's May 26th. We're going to have Cigar West on with what Skip was talking about, the Chattanooga Tweet Up. He's down there at Burns Tobacconist, and we're going to have a show with him.
Yep, you're right. That'd be 26. So make sure you tune in, everybody. It's going to be another good show, and that's about it, man. It was good to talk to Skip. It was nice to send the cigars out again. And if any of you interested, next Wednesday over at Mike Stogie's, I will be doing a review on it. So you'll be able to see my thoughts on his cigar. And as most of you know, I'm a big fan of the Chrome Magnum. Was my top 3 cigar of the year. But I want to thank everybody for tuning in again, and hope you enjoyed the 2 shows this week. It was a lot of pressure, but we got it done, and we'll see all you guys, hopefully, and girls, next 2 Saturdays from now. So that's it from me. I'm out.
See yous.